Hello, friends. Robert Bevan here, author of the Caverns and Creatures series of comedy fantasy novels and short stories. With me is Sam West, and today we're talking about the spell Unseen Servant.
It's a spooky
All
little
right.
ghost. You get a little spooky friend. This smells
Huh,
great.
not a friend, it's a servant.
It's an invisible, mindless, shapeless medium force.
Yeah, I don't know. So, I don't know, like level one mage hand?
Worse than that? Let's read it. Unseen Servant's a first level ritual spell. That is a very, very important word.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
takes an action to cast, or it's a ritual spell. It's got a 60-foot range area. It requires a little bit of string. It takes an hour duration, so it lasts a long while. The spell creates an invisible, mindless, shapeless medium force that performs simple tasks at your command until the spell ends. The servant springs into existence in an unoccupied space on the ground within range, AC of 10, 1 hit point, strength of 2, can attack. It drops to 0 hit points, spell ends. Once on each of your turns as a bonus action, you command it to do things. It moves up to 15 feet and interacts with an object. That's it. That's all it can do. The servant can perform simple tasks like a human servant could do, such as fetching things, cleaning, mending, folding clothes, lighting fire, serving food, and pouring wine. Once you give it the command, it does that until it's done. Or you give it a new command. If you command the servant to perform a task that would be further than 60 feet away from you, the spell ends. So just don't do that. Keep it close to you. I like this little spell. I like this little
Yeah,
spell a lot.
this is one of those I just can't get excited about.
What's wrong? Why don't you like Unseen Servant? You like Mage Hand a ton.
Yeah, I like mage hand. That's, I don't know, that just feels like, you know, telekinesis, which is cool.
Mhm.
This is like, yeah, I'm not doing it. I'm not lifting this with my mind. Yeah, yeah. If I had it in real life, sure, awesome. But I don't know. I just can't get into this fantasy, and
I
it's
think it's
not
pretty sweet.
particularly. I mean, how useful is it? I mean,
It varies wildly.
yeah,
So this is a spell that gets way better with dynamic environments. This is a spell that gets way better with populated spaces. It gets way better whenever players are allowed to have some input as to what's in the world, what's in the rooms that they're in. Because interacting with an object can be anywhere, anything from untying some horses to let loose some havoc to only being able to ever do dishes or, pulling up a stool, right? These things aren't particularly strong. They can't do a lot of heavy manual labor, but they can do little dexterous things. So they can open doors with keys. They can, even like you could conceivably use it to pick something off of a person if it's done in a non-discreet way. Because this isn't necessarily discreet. It is an invisible force, just like yoinking something. But that is within the realm of it, right? It's a small mundane task that the servant can do. You can have it. I've seen it in battle maps where like they were at a quarry and they were, a big wooden crane like thing, the big wheel spinny things they used back in
right.
medieval eras. It went over and it loosened and released a tight knot, and it dropped a big pallet of stuff, and that had a big impact on an encounter. Now, logistically, that probably wouldn't ever happen in historical times, but within the scope of a magical universe like Dungeons and Dragons, in the scope of like not understanding the full nature of these complex structures that we're making up as we go, there's lots of room for unseen servants to sort of get in there, manipulate, and do some nifty little things. They really like it. It feels very much like Thief Rogue's bonus to interact with an object, except it only cares about the environment, and you can't really like use it to do much else. Conceivably, you could have it administer like a first aid kit. That is within the using an object action. It's not even an action. It's the interact with an object that you take as part of doing something on your turn. So like I would say using a medicine kit probably fits within this spell's description, but there are DMs that are definitely going to rule that's not the case. All of this is within the context of, at its floor, being a handy little camp cleanup friend. It's a ritual spell that goes in Bards and Wizard spellbooks, or it goes in Bards known spells and Wizard spellbooks and is forgotten about otherwise. This is just something that you have flavorfully that costs you almost nothing to use. And that on its own makes it nearly harmless to have. I think if you're a wizard, this is easily, if you know what your prepared list is, and I would highly advise when you're a wizard, have the list of spells that you will always prepare, and then the entire rest of your spellbook is just ritual spells. And this is one of those easy things. Then you have access to functionally double the magic because you can use the ritual spells all the time from your spellbook, and you can prepare all the other spells that you need. This is one of those rituals.
Yeah. All right. So cool, I guess. But I think this is the sort of thing that's neat when if you see it in a movie. You got the little broom sweeping up by itself, or you got the dishes being put on the rack, or whatever. That's neat. But how often does it come up in actual gameplay? You just say, all right, we clean up our camp. Whether or not an unseen servant is helping out with that, you could specify that, but that's fun once, maybe.
So I do think there's a good chunk of tables that I've played at some of them where the large point of playing Dungeons and Dragons isn't the game elements. It isn't the combat. It isn't even like the accounting for social rules. It's not like the, is this thing actively hostile or whatever. It's very in-depth role play. It's very in-depth world building and storytelling, and coming to get a specific fantasy you want a character to evoke. And there are definitely people I know that would love to have the "this is my fantasy Mickey Mouse" thing. I have an unseen servant that is just a constant background figure that you use as part of your narrative, that you use as part of your storytelling, that enriches the world for you and for the people around you, right? Those tables definitely get a lot of that mileage. For the gaming tables, though, for the tables that are playing this more like the board game that a lot of people tend to play it as, I think that it still has a home on a lot of character sheets, given you're in spaces that have dynamic objects to interact with, given that you have candles to tip over, given that you have sort of little loose ends of things that you can manipulate with an invisible force to do some interactive things in the world. This is even like at an average tavern scene with very light description. This being able to knock over a beer of a big angry half-orc or ogre friend, right, can start a bar fight. There are ways that you can use this to instigate invisibly different people around the space and try and get some reaction, trying to get some of the sort of juice that you're looking for without necessarily tying it back to you. Mage hands are visible, right? You can see them. So having an
Yeah, but
invisible
I
thing
mean,
interact with that
you don't
is gonna be
necessarily
different.
know whose mage hand it is.
They'll be like, oh, everyone look around the tavern through full of thugs and mercenaries. Who's that nerd with the pointy hat? Get him. So yeah.
You're probably already getting beat up.
I think that it is still a well of opportunity that has a very cheap cost. I think that this isn't going to be a spell for everybody, much like the illusion magics, but it is going to be a spell for some that really like to come up with creative ideas and really envision the scene and weaponize things in that scene in creative ways.
Yeah, and I think I'm probably going to take a little heat for this one. For not being as excited about it as I am. Because I have heard people say they love their unseen servants, and I welcome that. Commenters, please tell us how you've used yours.
It's gonna be so nice for people to be on my side at this time and be like, nah, Sam's actually right. Unseen servant slaps and Bob's just being mean.
Yeah, that's I'm surprised at how often that's the case.
I would hazard guess because I tend to have very big opinions, and they are never wrong. I've never been wrong about anything in my entire life. I'm on the record saying that. I've only ever been correct, and yep, we're good now.
All right. Anything else to say about Unseen Servant?
It's cheap.
Yeah.
I think if you're a warlock, this goes in your Book of Ancient Secrets, and that's about it. I think if you're a ritual caster, this is probably like the 4th or 5th ritual spell you pick up. This isn't like something I wouldn't say this is so powerful. This is the first ritual spell you get. This isn't a detect magic. This isn't a identify. Definitely not a find familiar. I think this is like the 3rd or 4th, maybe 5th ritual spell you pick up if you really want, like, if you don't think that you're going to be using it that much for the object interaction stuff. If you already have a familiar, that's probably doing roughly the same job as this, and it's doing it in a way more powerful manner. So yeah, Unseen Servant is like, do you want a second familiar that's invisible always, but is worse? And then you can be like, yeah, sure, why not? That seems fine. And then you stick it on your character sheet, and you got a prepared list of spells anyway, and it's just a bonus feature to have mainly for wizards. Bards, I think, have a little bit harder of a time picking this up, but they don't have find familiars. So that's a real upside to be like, well, I don't have access to a familiar. I'll take, Unseen Servant and have a little drummer boy behind me bashing cymbals together while I play my little one-man band show. That's cute.
There's a use for it. Okay.
There's plenty of good uses for it. Anytime you
Oh,
need an
yeah.
object being used, Unseen Servant can do that. And it becomes very apparent when you're actually playing the game to be like, oh yeah, it actually would be nice for me to not have to do all of these things at once. It'd be nice to have someone carrying the torch while everyone else has both their hands full of their spell focus and their shields and their weapons and stuff, right? And Unseen Servant does all those things.
All right, what if I think we touched on this when we were talking about Magnificent Mansion, but all right, what if you had like a factory?
Mm-hmm.
Could these guys like mass produce items that at your factory?
I
work
see
on
no reason why not.
assembly line.
Absolutely. This doesn't say you can't have more than one of them.
Yeah, I mean, ritual spell lasts for an hour.
Yeah, so you could just be like 6 Unseen Servants that you're just repeating on cast to make an endless little machine assembly version of these 6 little guys running around doing all your mundane bidding. Is that more efficient than having one person do things? I don't know. One person might be worth about as much as 6 Unseen Servants.
All right, well, you can have that too.
Sure. But like, I'm saying the one person doing the unseen servant spam ritual
right.
casting is probably worth the same as the 6 unseen servants doing their things. But maybe it's not. Maybe you have a lot of mundane tasks. Maybe you need to tie like, 10,000 baskets together and you're like, well, I can tie it about as fast as an unseen servant can. So unseen servants it is.
All right. Well, that's the use I can get behind.
Making 1,000 baskets.
Well, no, just 1,000, whatever, to complement my wall of stone city I'm building.
Gotcha.
Those houses need baskets and windows or whatever you build in factories.
And like, maybe you just got 5 low, or if you're doing the wall of stone city building nonsense, you can just cast these with spell slots. You can just be like, yeah, I want 8 more unseen servants to go do things right now. Action, 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 go. And they're just off doing those things, and you're running around using your 4th level spell slots, constructing and building your little cities and making giant dicks in Minecraft. That's what you're up for. So
all right. Like I said before, viewers, please tell me what else I've missed and why you love Unseen Servant so much. But until then, we got a rating for this one?
I think it's a perfectly reasonable spell. This is really easy to put in your sheet. Your game's not going to care about it at all. This is a 3 out of 5. This is a perfectly fine, great little spell to have.
All right, I'm going to agree with you, and based on what our commenters are going to say. So there you go. That's Unseen Servant. Thank you, Sam, and thank you everyone for joining us. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Thank you for watching. If you found this helpful, informative, or entertaining, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the like button below. You needn't smash it. A gentle tap will suffice. If you want to see more videos like this, subscribe to the channel. And make sure you check out the links in the description, where you'll find my Caverns Creatures series of comedy fantasy novels, Sam's full review of the spell, and other fun things.